Hello, I'm Pira Nada. Welcome to Rappler Talk. Today we're with Secretary Dureza, the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, and we're here to talk about the Bangsamoro Organic Law and the upcoming January 21, 2019 plebiscite on the BOL. Thank you so much, Secretary, for joining us.
Well, thank you for coming.
Okay, so sir, just to get started, could you explain to our viewers what exactly is happening on January 21?
January 21 will be a time when those who are residing in the core territory, that means the areas where the barn will be installed, will be given opportunity to make a decision whether they want the BOL to be entrenched and to be approved or they don't want it. So it's very crucial because part of our democratic practice, we have to get the mandate and the decision of the public and the residents who will be affected. So it's a plebiscite. They will decide whether yes or no during that time.
So January 21 is only 2 months away. So I expect, we can all probably think that the government is preparing for this very important date. And we have, I think, a plebiscite period from December 7 to Feb 5. What exactly will happen during this time?
Well, even before the start of the official campaign, there's been a lot of work done already by all sectors, not only MILF, not only government, but the civil society organizations and those who are supportive of the BOL to really make this understandable to the ordinary voters. But the official campaign period is on December 7. And I'm sure that will be a more heightened work that will be done in explaining to the public before they cast their vote so that intelligently they will be able to make a good decision of whether to vote yes or no.
In your point of view, what specific aspects of the BOL do you want to inform people in ARM about? What makes it different? Why should they vote yes?
You know, there's a general information campaign, but usually during fora or consultations, they ask very specific questions, issues that affect them directly. For example, those who are working with the arm, they ask what will happen to us. There will be a new government and we'll be out of jobs and all that. But the other ordinary citizen will say, what about my farm? You know, something that touches them directly. So it can be anything. But our general approach is really to call on everyone that this is something that had been worked on. The agreement was signed early in 2014. It failed to pass Congress when they started coming out with the BBL, the Bangsamoro Basic Law. And with the onset of President Duterte's administration, he went forward really and made a strong pitch to get this going.
So, sir, during the plebiscite period, what concrete events or campaigns can people in ARM and in the 39 barangays, for example, in Cotabato, who could be part of the BOL in the future, what can they expect? Will there be sort of consultations, Q&A portions where people can actually directly ask questions?
Yes, there will be fora to be conducted. We have an EIC, an Educational Information Campaign, and we get support from government and from other sectors, even from our foreign donors. They're so interested also to help give information to the general public. Then, of course, the local governments, because there will be a forthcoming election in May, remember? So part of the advocacy of those who are campaigning for public office in May will have also to disclose their own position on the issue of the plebiscite of the BOL. So it's going to be a very wide open work that will involve everybody. There will be there's some sectors who are opposing it, and so there are also efforts to try and explain to them. But there are some really who are really, whether you explain it properly or not, are against it, right? Because they don't see value in the new BOL. So these are the things that we'll have to really work on.
Sir, you mentioned opposition to the BOL, and as we know, Governor Tan in Cebu filed a petition to block the BOL with the Supreme Court, and now he was raising constitutional issues. Are you confident that the BUL will pass the constitutionality test?
Generally, I'm confident that it will pass the constitutionality test. Even at the time when both chambers of Congress, Senate and the House, were deliberating on it, they were so concerned about what happened in the past, the issues of constitutionality, which practically blocked the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. And so I think from hindsight, they know that if they don't navigate the constitutionally sensitive provisions, there might be some issues that can be raised. But when the both chambers came up with reconciled version, because there were two conflicting versions, as you know, after a lot of work and after the MILF agreed to even downscale some of the provisions there just to comply with constitutionality issues, I think I'm very confident that it will pass the constitutional test. But then eventually, as you know, it's in the Supreme Court now. Let that be decided by the Supreme Court.
And do you think, sir, that the issue being raised by some quarters about the parliamentary form of government is another constitutional?
Yeah, it's an issue. In fact, that's one of the issues raised in the petition filed in the Supreme Court. So, but remember, the parliamentary form, that legislative setup was not stricken down when it was being done with the autonomous region for Muslim Mindanao. Remember? There's a legislative assembly, and that was not stricken down as constitutionally. And it is about the same kind of setup that will be running the legislative part of the BUL.
Sir, earlier you spoke of how we will have elections in May, but the plebiscite will be in January 2019. So what's the scenario we're looking at if the BUL is ratified in January and then we have a few months later the elections, the May elections? What happens to, of course, we no longer have the ARM by that time. So, paano yun, sir? No governor will run for ARM. What's the scenario?
No, let's do it this way muna. When the plebiscite approves it with a yes vote, yung mga incumbent officers and officials of the autonomous region for Muslim Mindanao, the previous ARM, will be allowed to continue functioning up to May, because that is the end of their elected term in the previous elections. So they will be part of the transitory authority, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority. They will also be part of that, but only a very short period, di ba? Dahil pag pinasaya ng January, so you have February, March, April, mga 3 months lamang ang transitory nila. And then when the May election comes, there will be no one who will be running for the officials of the BARM, because it is mandated in the law that the Bangsamoro Transition Authority will govern up to 2022. So nakita mo ngayon na walang nag-file ng candidacy for the ARM because parang given na rin sa lahat na papasayan at that will happen. Because otherwise, kung maraming nag-aalanganin, sabihin nila, mag-file muna ako for governor ng ARM, or you notice there's none as far as I know. Ha?
So it's like an indication that...
It's an indication na tumaliman na lahat. Parang it's given already na tutuluyan. And you know, I think they take it also from the President's very strong message. I'd like to have this passed. And marami siyang ginawa dyan sa totoo lang na hindi naman natin kailangan i-disclose during the critical period when we had problems getting the law crafted jointly by both chambers.
He intervened, right?
Yes, of course.
Parang he became a referee to the two parties.
Yes, he did. Many ways, in many ways.
Sir, baka you want to explain?
No, these are things that had already taken place. I don't want to refer to them already. And we were also working in that direction where there's confidentiality. But we just look at the outcomes coming from what he personally did.
I think one of the issues he intervened in was whether the mother units have to have a say in whether the 39 barangays in North Cotabato and the 6 municipalities in
Yun
Lanao
ang
del Norte.
key problem area dun sa Senado at saka sa House. And internally, even in the House. So, finally, it was resolved dahil nobody will be allowed to vote out. But they can vote in. Kasi pag i-allow mo kasi yung opt-out provision na pag natalo ka, for example, baka matalo sa Sulu, manalo ang no vote sa Sulu, so hindi na sila kasali sa BARM. That is not allowed. It has to be the totality of the votes of the whole area within the territory that will make the final determination. Now, as far as the 6 municipalities of Lanao and the 39 barangays in Cotabato, they will be allowed to vote in, but the final decision will be made by the totality of the votes of the whole province of Lanao Norte. So, kung maski pa boboto yung mga towns doon, Munay, individual and say, yes, we want to join, kung ang totality vote of North Lanao, Lanao del Norte will not vote favorably, they will not be allowed to opt in and join the BARM.
I believe, sir, in the 2001 plebiscite, the same thing happened, and then the mother units didn't allow those smaller units to join. What makes this time different? Do you think that they will be able to join?
It is still consistent because the final arbiter there was a decided case of the Supreme Court in another issue in Luzon, where they had to decide whether a charter city can separate from the mother province. And the charter city voted to be an independent chartered city, but the whole province said no. They could not remove themselves from the political territory. So, ang totality ng vote ng probinsya was the deciding factor in that previous Supreme Court. And in order to make this very compliant with Constitution and with decided cases of the Supreme Court, to allow otherwise will even give it more danger of being stricken down by the Supreme Court.
So what's your outlook when you look at these barangays, these municipalities? Do you think it's highly likely that they will be part of the BOL with the situation on the ground?
Reality, Lanao Norte naman, in reality, the totality of the votes there will be against joining. And I know the Dimapuros have taken a very strong and very open position against it. So, ganun din sa mga barangay doon sa North Cotabato.
Now looking into si President Duterte and how involved he was in the process, when was the last time he spoke of it to you, the BOL ratification, the plebiscite? Does he have any marching orders or did he have any insights?
Not the last time that he talked about it and with us officially being there was during the time when he met with both chambers of Congress to resolve finally with finality yung problema doon sa opt-out and opt-in. Yan.
But sir, assuming that the BOL is ratified and then now we move on to what happens after. So, if it's ratified, if it's a yes vote, the President will create the BTA, Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and then we will have this entity shepherding the region until 2022. So, how are we preparing for this scenario, if we're preparing for it?
Well, alam mo, to the credit of the MILF, and I'd like to mention this and highlight this. When there was a group of foreign donors who met with MILF and with us being present at OPAP in Davao, very forthright was the statement of Kagi Murad, the head of the MILF. He said, I'm sorry to say that as of now, we are not ready to take over governance because we don't have the capacity. So immediately he admitted to everyone that they need capacitation and they need the support of everyone to see to it that this first opportunity of governing the Bangsamoro territory will not fail, will be at least at par with the expectations of the people. Because the expectations, by the way, are very high. And we have also to admit that many of the MILF, they're trained and ready to fight, go to war, rather than run governments. So with that very forthright and honest statement by the leader of the MILF, I think that there will be a lot of work that will be done to see to it that they will be capacitated.
Sir, when did he say that?
During our forum in Davao, maybe a month ago, more than a month ago.
So does this mean, sir, what will then happen? Is there a deadline for when he has to be prepared for this? Because the BTA is supposed to be MILF-led.
Yes,
right?
at least majority numerically will be nominated by the MILF. But be assured that many of those in the MILF, knowing also the open statement of Kagemura, the leader of the MILF, that he will not be putting those who are good in fighting to be there in government. I think they will look at other personalities and other competent people, Bangsamoro, who will be able to give it a good start.
The BTA will be formed by people to be appointed by the president.
The president makes the final choice. Since the MILF will be the dominant group, then numerically we just expect that maybe out of the 80, they will get a minimum of 41. But all the rest, 39, will have to be spread out. And I'm sure civil society, the youth, women, sectors will be put in there.
The BTA is a crucial entity. So how do you think it should be formed, or what should the composition be to ensure that we can avoid conflicts? Because as we know, ARM is full of factions and clans. I mean, how do we ensure that the BTA will keep things
Alam mo, sa
peaceful?
totoo lang ngayon, I get so many requests for recommendation to the president from me. Sir, pwede na ako dyan. Pwede akong pumasok dyan. Ganito yung grupo ko and all that. But eventually, I think the president makes a judgment call. He makes a judgment call.
But you as advisor will be advising him.
No, I will give only advice when my advice is solicited. But I'm sure there will be some kind of a screening group that will be formed in order that we get the good people and very competent and capacitated already. We don't have time to capacitate them while they're in office. We don't have much time. We have only 2019, 20, and 22. Just a few years. So capacitation is very important.
What does it say, sir, in the law about BTA composition? For example, we know that there are Christian settlers in ARM now and maybe future in the BARM. So will there be representation for them?
Yeah, of course. Kaya nga, it will be a bit inclusive. Walang exclusivity dito. So I think there'll be a real effort to really see to it that sectors are well represented.
How about MNLF?
MNLF will be there also, of course. They help. The MNLF faction of Chairman Yusuf Jikiri helped even in the crafting. Remember? They sent 3 in the BTC, in the commission that crafted and drafted the bill, the law. So there will be participation from them also.
What's your chief concern now with regards to preparing BARM, well, ARM and then maybe BARM for that scenario where we have a ratification? What for you is the chief concern? What is something we have to
Ang chief concern namin ngayon na dapat maibaba doon sa grassroots ang correct information. Remember, may mga kumukontra. And they can easily just twist some information there. Diba? So, ang napakahalaga that we reach down to the lowest level of society, sa masa, yung real story about the BARM. That's why malaking trabaho pa. No? But we have enough time, I think, and we get a lot of support coming from some sectors.
What are the misinformation you've noticed? Have you, with your ears on the ground, heard anything? Like, is this misinformation coming from violent groups, extremist groups?
I know. Ang disinformation dito yung mga, alam mo may mga grupo na gusto lang manggugulo. We have even the emergence of violent extremism already on the ground. So, maraming mga issues na, Hindi ko lang sabihin ano yung mga issues dahil I'll be propagating it publicly. I'll be the
But
one
you'll
who
also
will...
be refuting them. You'll also be refuting them.
Well, there will have to be an information campaign and may ano na ngayon parang may nagde-determine ano yung mga negative na kailangan ma-counter at ma-explain ng maayos. But I don't want to give currency to this mga distorted ideas. Dahil karamihan, tinatakot mga tao. Diba?
So may fear-mongering involved. Ano yun, Sir BUL will lead to more factions? Ganun po ba yun?
Well, maraming sinasabi, like a BUL, it will make people more entrenched and all that. But, you know, in fairness to the framers of the CAB, Comprehensive Agreement of Bangsamoro during the time of former President Pinoy, Aquino, it was well thought out. But ang pag-craft lang ng batas to entrench it had to be a little bit dealt with dahil nga may mga constitutional issues before. Yun talaga cleansed na yun sa tingin namin.
Senator Franklin Drilon pointed out that one possible way for BUL to fail in its promise to deliver Mindanaoans from poverty is the fact that dynasties could still reign supreme in the BARM. How do you address this concern?
Well, that's a reality. And whether it's the BARM or no BARM or ARM or just ordinary, dynasties are there to reckon with. But ultimately, kung mataas ang consciousness level ng taong bayan, not to allow it to perpetuate, they can do so in a ballot. No? Ang problema nga lang, dahil sa kahirapan, madaling mag-manipulate muna ng mga followers by the use of resources, the use of money. But tingin ko ngayon, parang may pagbabago ang tingin ng mga tao. Parang they don't want to continue in this hole where we have been for a long, long time. And this is another new opportunity. Nagulat ka ako, nakita ko na pati yung mga areas na na-expect ko na lukewarm. They're the ones even really saying, tuloy na natin ito, sayang ito. Pag hindi pa ito natuloy, wala na. And you know, there's also this fear, although maybe propagated by some, na pag hindi pa natuloy itong BARM, it will all the more fire up people to take on violent extremism. And so, alam ng taong bayan, even the ordinary folk, na hindi sila pwede makipagsama doon sa mga violent extremists or terrorists. They saw what happened in Marawi. They thought that hindi sila maapektuhan, although alam nila na may mga armado na pumapasok sa Marawi. Kasi akala nila dahil kapwa namin Bangsamoro, hindi kami gagalawin yan. But it happened. So, the ugly face of violent extremism had surfaced, and I'm sure malaking bagay dito in getting people to support the BOL is the real danger na pag hindi pa ito pumasa, maraming mag-iintriga at will even trigger a lot more to adopt already the violent extremist ideology. Kasi karamihan ng terrorists in the Marawi and the other areas in Sulu, as mga Busayap, is that, wala nang pagbabago dito, so mas maganda, ito na lang dapat natin gawin, labanan na lang natin. That is a very serious situation if BOL will not pass. I'm not threatening, I'm not making people fearful na kailangan suportahan nyo talaga. But my real sense is that violent extremism may have a fertile ground if hindi natin tuloy-tuloy itong BOL.
Speaking of violent extremism, we still have martial law in Mindanao, and in December, it will expire, and people are thinking, or there's talk that it might be extended for a third time. And we know end of December is extension possibly, and then January will be the plebiscite. And then there are people in the security forces saying that one reason why it could be good to extend it is so that this plebiscite can be more peaceful. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, you have to base this from sentiments sa mga tao. You know, I come from Mindanao. Okay. And ang feeling ko, ang nakukuha ko from ordinary citizens that I go with and talk to is that they prefer to extend martial law. And kasi yung idea of martial law kasi, marami pang takot sa martial law dahil nga akala nila ito yung martial law during former President Marcos' time. Remember, the Constitution had been well amended to even temper the power of the state in a martial law regime. Ang laking pagbabago. Yun lang, andyan pa yung image na ano yun, very repressive yan. But if you ask people in Mindanao, they don't feel that there is oppression there and repression of their rights. They even feel secure na may martial law. Yun lang, may inconvenience ang iba, like
Yung mga checkpoints.
mga checkpoints. But that's necessary dahil hindi pa tayo sigurado kung talagang wala nang manggugulo pa.
Yung ibang camps naman po are saying it could be possible to limit the martial law to a certain area of Mindanao instead of the entire region. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that could be possible, but the problem there is if you limit martial law to a certain area at wala dito, eh yung mga manggugulo, dito sila ngayon. Dito sa area na walang martial law, kung takot sila sa martial law na they will be confronted there, no? Then you create pockets of more conflict and more destabilization or feeling of insecurity sa mga tao. Kasi piliin mo lang tapos sabihin mo pa, bakit kami may martial law pa rito? Bakit doon sa mga areas niya walang martial law? Baka problema ka pa So it's rather that it's going to be the whole region itself. And at some point in time, pag hindi na kailangan, it has also to be removed from the whole region of Mindanao. But at this point in time, may popular clamor pa Although yung mga hindi taga Mindanao, iba ang tanong mo, iba ang dating sa kanila, di ba? But as people in Mindanao, they're very supportive.
But if there is support, the question now is how long? For how much
Saka
longer?
na natin pag-usapan yan. I-extend muna in order that the climate will also be conducive to a peaceful plebiscite and perhaps a peaceful election in May.
So you think martial law can definitely help with those two processes?
It can help.
Very critical.
Definitely in the areas now. Alam mo naman, some areas in Mindanao talagang problemado
And sir, lastly, before we wrap up, people have called ARM a failed experiment, diba? It led to a lot of poverty and people have accused it of corruption and mismanagement. So how do we keep BARM from avoiding that fate?
First of all, I don't agree doon sa sinasabi na this is a failed experiment. Alam mo, work for peace or addressing situations of people, they are also in different stages. Yung pag-install ng ARM at that time, it went through several stages, remember? Tapos finally, may Batas 90, Republic Act 9054. It also worked somehow, although not really to the satisfaction of all. But it had improved somehow the quality of life. Yun lang talagang ang area, hindi talaga nalinis pa yung security situation. So when you have insecurity and unpeace, you cannot really bloom development-wise. There will be no progress kung talagang may security issue. Kaya nga sabi ko always, ano ba mauna? Peace muna bago maayos ang community na maging develop. Kasi yun ang sabi ng mga development people. Bakit hindi kayo nagde-develop at ang dinegosyo doon? Sir, delikadong lugar. Kailangan mo na peaceful. Sabihin mo naman yung mga areas na unpeaceful, sabi nila, bakit masyado ko magulo dito? Walang kabuhayan dito. So anong mauna? Development muna, progress before peace, or peace muna bago progress? Sa President Duterte's roadmap naman is it's a nexus of doing both at the same time simultaneously.
So you think that the BOL is part of that equation?
That's part of that
doing it
equation.
simultaneously?
That's part of that equation.
All right. Thank you so much, Secretary Dureza, for sharing your time with us.
I think I confused you all the more. So.
No, it was very insightful. So here's to hoping for a successful and peaceful plebiscite in January.
Yes, and I know you can help a lot.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Pia Renada, and you've been watching Rappler Talk.